Hey YouTube, what's up? It's your girl Imani Christine back again with another video. If you are new to my channel, welcome. If you are returning, thanks so much for coming back. Today's video is going to be 5 things that I have noticed in my own personal experience that are quite different for me in terms of my experience in the American public school system, in Pennsylvania to be specific, and here in Seoul, South Korea. If you are interested in learning what these 5 unique things are, then keep watching. And like always, make sure before we start you hit that subscribe button down below. So the first thing that I have noticed that is significantly different between the United States, or at least my experience in the US and my experience here in Seoul, South Korea, is that the students are the ones that clean the school. At home, and I also went to a public school and I work at a public school here, just to clarify that, but we weren't responsible for cleaning our school, and I don't know any students or any of my peers that were responsible for cleaning their school. We had a cleaning service or the school janitor or someone, and that's like a common career in the US, being a school janitor. But here in Korea, I mean, there is someone that I think that comes like maybe on the weekends to thoroughly clean the bathrooms and such. But as far as the classrooms, the hallways, the stairwells, even after and before meals, that's the student's responsibility. Some students, even without being asked, will volunteer at the end of the class to stay back and sweep, a teacher's classroom for them if they notice it's a bit dusty. The kids seem to take pride in keeping their school clean. It doesn't really seem to come across as much of a chore. It's just how things are done. So I feel like if something like this was done in the US, it'd be like, oh no, we have to clean. Like, it would be a big fuss. But here it's no fuss whatsoever. It's just, yeah, of course we have to clean our classroom, we have to clean up after ourselves, and it's just sort of a different mentality, and I guess that goes along with this being a collectivist culture, where they see, what's important is doing what's best for everyone, and what's best for everyone is keeping their school clean together. So that's really awesome, and I love watching my kids, get into cleaning their school and cleaning the stairwells and the hallways and stuff, and yeah, I like that. The second thing that is quite different for me, from my experience in the US and my experience here in Seoul, South Korea, is that the teachers at home can stay at a certain school pretty much as long as they want. With tenure and different things, it seems to be actually quite difficult to get rid of bad teachers. But here in Seoul, South Korea, I don't think it's just Seoul, I think it's throughout South Korea, a teacher cannot be in the same school for, I think, longer than 5 years or so. If I'm wrong, please correct me down below. But you cannot just stay at the same school forever. So every 5 years or so, you have to switch to a different school and sort of start again. And I guess that keeps you on your A game. It keeps you working hard. If there are certain circumstances that, really you need to stay at that school, of course you can apply to renew at the same school here in Korea. But for the most part, every 5 years or so, teachers are constantly moving from different locations, which I can imagine can be quite frustrating, because if you have children, then that also will affect them, because these movements aren't guaranteed to be within your same city. You could be moved from Seoul to Busan, hypothetically. Hopefully not, that'd be awful. But yes, so that's one thing that's different, and teachers are really, constantly moving and having to change and adapt and learn new things. So it has its ups and its downs. I think for the teachers as individuals, it would be quite a negative thing, having to keep, every 5 years relearning and adjusting to a new system, possibly having to move homes. Work ethic, I think it can be quite helpful, because every time you enter a new environment, you want to be impressive, you want to do your best, you want to constantly strive to impress your new school and to impress your current school in case you want to apply to extend and stay longer than 5 years. If you've done a really good job, then they might be more likely to allow you to do so, opposed to if you've been a quite lazy teacher who has received a lot of complaints, they might even ask you to go before your 5 years is up. So that's one big difference that I've seen between my experience in the US and my experience here in Korea. Number 3 on my list is going to be the quality of school lunches. Of course, if you are in the US, your experience with school lunches is going to vary quite greatly. I know for myself, my experience with school lunches was not positive at all. I mean, it wasn't like horrible. I guess it could have always been worse, but it was a lot of really processed, really unhealthy foods. But here in Korea, the school lunch is like your Korean grandma is in the kitchen stirring that pot of soup for you, homemade, fresh, delicious, hot, like Oh my god, I can't even begin to I can't even begin to describe to you how amazing the school lunch here is. And I think for most people, of course, if you like Korean food, will say the same thing, that the school lunch is really, really good. But I don't know, excuse me, too many people in the US who would say, oh, maybe my school lunch is okay. But I don't know many people who would say, oh my god, my public school lunch is amazing, so delicious, so nutritious, so fresh and homemade. Like, I don't think many people would have that experience. So that's one difference as well. The fourth thing on my list that is different between my experience as a student in the US and as a teacher here in South Korea is the treatment of behavior for the students. In the United States, you are taught from a young age things like keep your hands to yourself, do not touch your peers, no fighting, no this, no that. And any sort of bad behavior, for the most part, there is a consequence. And you're taught as well, at least I was taught, that any sort of bad behavior must be disciplined, must be punished, and must be corrected with some sort of after punishment, I guess. And there's not much forgiveness for this bad behavior. And here, that was something that I really had to adjust with, because my mindset when I walk into, my school and the kids are fighting and crazy and doing this and doing that, and the teachers are sort of minding their business, is like, what? You're not going to tell the kids to keep their hands to themselves. You're not going to tell the kids to stop fighting. You're not going to tell the kids, not to do this, don't do this, don't do this. That's not how it's done here. The kids are just given free will. They're allowed to be kids. They're allowed to, they hit each other all day long, and it's not really a big deal. They're just kids being kids. And I guess the mentality is, just let them be kids. And if there are negative consequences that happen within their relationships and within, themselves, and that's just a part of life, and it's all a learning experience. If there's a serious fight, then the teachers, of course, will intervene. But that intervening, more than anything, is just a conversation. Why did you hit this person? Why are you upset? Why are you upset? Why is your disagreement, resorting to violence? How can we fix it? Let's go back into the classroom and keep it moving. There's no, let me call your parents, let me call the principal, let me, you're going to be in trouble, you're going to be expelled, you're going to be suspended. It's like, no, they're kids and they got to fight because kids get into fights and they're not forced to repress their emotions or their feelings. And it's up to you whether you want to see this as a good thing or a bad thing. But for me, I just find it really, really interesting, and I kind of like it. It's refreshing that the students are allowed to be angry. They're allowed to be wild and crazy, in between classes when they have their free time. They're allowed to run and jump and skip and hop and, do whatever. And as long as when they're in the classroom, there's some sort of order, it's okay. And I'm not mad at it. The kids are allowed to be kids. No one's being sent home. No one's being suspended. No one's being, put into this huge punishment because of behavior. And it's just looked at in a totally different way. I don't think I've ever seen a situation where a student had to be reprimanded by the principal or the vice principal, or a situation was ever escalated further than it needed to be escalated. And that's not to say that my students are angels or my students don't misbehave. They are certainly misbehaved, and they certainly fight, and they certainly hit each other and do what normal children do. But how these situations are handled is quite different. So yeah, that's something interesting that I found, a difference between the US and here in Korea. And the fifth thing on my list, the last and final thing that I found that is quite different between the United States and here in the public school system in Korea, is the pressure. Students here are under so much pressure. I think I read somewhere that students here in South Korea are like the highest risk for suicide because they are under so much pressure from their parents to succeed and to be educated. And this pressure starts from elementary school. I guess for me, one positive thing that I would take from it is that they value education for sure, and that's something that I also value, so I can relate to that. I like the fact that in Korea, a majority of students, it seems, attend some sort of private academy once school is finished, meaning their parents pay out of pocket usually for them to go to English Academy, Korean Academy, Math Academy, Computer Academy, Music Academy, whatever the academy may be, so that they can receive further education after school. It is extremely beneficial and something that one day in the future, hopefully, when I become a parent, I would definitely want to implement for my child as well. Like after school, I think it's important to have something else to do besides go home and watch TV or play video games. Sorry, future Amani's children, but you're going to you're going to Chinese Academy after school, and you're going to be fluent in Mandarin. Yeah, because that's important and it's cool, and it's it's difficult, but these parents are really investing in their children's future, and it's something that I really respect and really value. So yeah, those pressures also exist in the US. I'm not saying by any means that they don't, but they're just not as extreme. And I would see that also as a positive. I think finding a happy medium between really valuing education, putting a little pressure on your children to succeed and to be their best, but not pushing it too far to the point where it can hurt someone's mental health. Yeah. So that's just my opinion on a few things that I've noticed that were quite different between the US and the Korean public school system. If I have made any generalizations, I apologize. If I have made any mistakes, please correct them down below. And once again, thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a beautiful day. Bye!